Awesome. Awesome. Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today for our live workshop, Governance and Compliance on Amazon EKS with Nirmata. My name is Randy. I am your moderator for today's session. We do have a couple housekeeping items for today. Our session is being recorded and will be sent out shortly after we conclude. And we do want to make this as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, comments, please put them in the Q&A tab and we'll try to get to them as quickly as possible. And then as well as at the end of the workshop if something is left over. I would like to go ahead and introduce our speakers for today. We have Sagar and Patrick. Sagar, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Sagar Kundra, working as a senior customer success engineer. I've been working in the Kubernetes space for a while now, helping different customers in their Kubernetes and cloud native journey. Patrick?
Awesome.
All right, awesome. Well, hello everyone. I'm Patrick Vassell. As far as a partner solutions architect here at AWS. I've been here for about 2 years now, and I specialize in containers and virtualization. So very excited to partner with Nirmata as far as on this talk that we have today that I'm sure you guys will be excited to learn and experiment and see the real value and the better together story that Nirmata and AWS can share together with you today. So looking forward to it. So I hope you guys enjoy it.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick. I appreciate you both being here for the awesome workshop that you've put together. So in this workshop, you will learn how to rapidly deploy intelligent guardrails, use policy as code, how to easily manage policies through their entire life cycle and at scale, gain insights on the effectiveness of policy through reporting and contextual correlation and insight engine, how to achieve continuous compliance through policies as a standard part of the DevOps pipeline, and how to leverage existing processes and workflow by integrating with tools like Git, Slack, Jira, and others. That being said, I will stop sharing and I will hand it over to you, Patrick.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you there, Andy. So yeah, so today what we're going to be doing is going over a workshop. We want you all to get hands-on. So what I decided to do was I have some accounts that I'm going to go ahead and offer you all. These are temporary AWS accounts. So they are only going to last for 48 hours. So they'll be lasting for 2 days for you. And the great thing is you can go ahead and test everything out, follow along. This is a hands-on interactive workshop. So we beg you to, take advantage of this opportunity and, follow along with us. And if you have any questions, we want to make sure that you guys ask and utilize the chat that we have and, ask your questions there. Don't be afraid to do so. We don't bite. So first things first is I want to walk you through setting up your account. So first thing, let me actually share my screen here and go from there. So I'm going to do this desktop. All right. And hopefully you guys can see my screen now. Okay, so I think I lost my chat though. All right, here we go. So the link to the AWS accounts are going to be posted here. And what we are going to do is click on that link and it's going to have you authenticate. So you just need to make sure that you register with an email address that you have access to right now. And it should look something like this here. So make sure you just read the terms and conditions, just ensuring that you guys are going to be following the best practices related to just making sure that you're not, spinning up, crazy size instances and, doing anything that's excessive. So we just ask you to keep that in mind. So if you scroll down here, you're going to, as long as you agree to the terms and conditions, you're going to click the checkbox there and we're going to click on join event. Uh-oh, I don't think, did I send this to everyone, the link?
I got it. I went ahead and sent it to everyone in the chat.
Send it to everyone? Okay, all right, awesome. Perfect. So I clicked on there and it pretty much got me in automatically, but you're going to be receiving like a link in your email. It is allowing you to automatically sign in, but yours are going to be slightly different. So you're going to click in the link and it should send you I believe it's like a one-time password. And once you verify all that stuff, you may need to check in your spam email, spam folder in your email, and you should be able to pretty much get in there pretty seamlessly. So before I go ahead and continue, I do want to make sure everyone is actually able to click on the link, get access to this page here, and then we can move forward. So just give me a thumbs up or some type of notification in the chat to confirm that A, you can connect, you can click the link, and B, that you are able to access this page here.
And we can give everyone a minute if we need to.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Let me make sure the Q&A is. Why everything just went small for me? Okay. All right. So has anyone been able to get in yet? Just want to at least get one confirmation so we can move forward. All right. Okay, so I'm going to assume that nothing's working right now. You guys get access. Actually, what I can do is I can check here and see if we have people signing in. So looks like Braxton was able to get in. So yeah, I see we got like a lot of attendees. Someone's raising their hand.
I think Natasha has a question, I guess.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and ask to unmute.
Oh, it was just saying mine was showing chat was disabled for some reason. It wasn't letting me.
Oh, it's not allowing you to chat at all.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess that might be one of the some settings that are in there. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if we can update that, Randy, as far as allowing the panel, the attendees to chat, or you may have to use a Q&A. I'm not sure. You're muted, Randy, if you're talking.
We'll probably have to use the Q&A chat. That's why I told everyone
Q&A.
if you have a problem. And you
Oh,
put it
okay.
in the box.
Yeah, so yeah, let's use the Q&A. So what's the event access code? So with the link, it should automatically take you there. But if you do need the access code, it's going to be here at the end of that link that we sent. And the 12-digit code is going to be, let me just copy that and I'll paste that in the chat. So you can just paste that in there. So that's going to be the 12-digit code that you need. And then let me know if you have any other issues. But technically, that link should get you right in. I was with that. So, yeah, so that looks good. Next thing here is, so now that you guys are in there, you have access to your AWS account, and to be able to actually go inside the account, there's going to be this section on the left-hand panel here. And all you need to do is click Open AWS Console, and this will open up your AWS account that we created for you. And this link here also shows you, we have a couple of things that we already created for you in the accounts that we created. And that's going to be a EKS cluster, as well as having access to a Cloud9 instance. So for us to go ahead and get started, we want to actually get access to that first. So let's go ahead and just type in Cloud9 in the search bar up here, and we should just want to click on Cloud9. And then once we get there, Yep, we're gonna go ahead and see a open button here. So Cloud9 IDE, you're just gonna click open. If you click here by accident or anything, it's okay. You can also open in Cloud9 here. But the easiest way is just simply click open, and it should open up another tab for you. And this is going to be the environment that we're going to access our EKS cluster. So once we get here, we're going to be good. So I think before we even continue on, and this will still allow people to connect and log in. And of course, if you have any questions, use the Q&A so we can assist you with any roadblocks that you may have. I think it'll be a great time now for Sagar to go ahead and explain as far as what we're going to be talking about in relation to the governance and compliance with Nirmata. And of course, please make sure that you're visiting this page here, nirmata.awsworkshop.io, so you can also follow along the steps that we're going to be going through to make it a very friendly workshop that you can follow along with. So this is what we're going to be using. So yeah, take it away, Sagar, as far as what's Nirmata and what is NPM and what does it solve?
Sure. Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, once again, thanks everyone for joining the session. Before I dive right into what is how Nirmata helps you with governance and compliance, I want to begin with some of the basic challenges with securing Kubernetes environments. So if you consider any typical organization, right, you have different teams, like you have security team, platform team, developers, right? And each of these teams have different, purpose. They have different roles and responsibilities. So if you talk about developers, developers are mostly involved in pushing the features as soon as possible, and they tend to sometimes overlook security, right? For example, what I have seen working with different customers and different use cases, developers deploy containers, let's say, as a root user, right? So that's one example. And one example would be using host namespaces in their manifest files. So all those are not security best practices, but development teams are either not aware of it or they just don't care about it, right? Because it's not their role. So it becomes difficult for really, for security teams or platform teams to chase down the developers and ask them to fix it. So we need kind of a centralized platform that allows us to have collaboration across different teams. So Nirmata or Nirmata Policy Manager is a platform that allows you to operationalize Kubernetes operations and automate security across your clusters, right? And it also provides a platform for collaboration across different teams. So that's those are some of the main pain points or problems that Nirmata solves. Of course, as we dive deeper, we'll do a hands-on session and go through each of those items.
Awesome. Great explanation on that. So perfect. So yeah, thank you for explaining what Nirmata is and the importance of security. As you mentioned, although we want to have a one team and one organization, there is still separation of duties, right? And developers' main goal is to get it operating. The security components and all that other stuff is not necessarily their first thought. So Nirmata definitely can help, with getting that buy-in and forcing everyone to go ahead and follow those guardrails that you have, in automation at this point. So that's great. So, with that, we're going to go ahead and as far as segue to the prerequisites section. So if we go ahead and click under prerequisites, or we can just click the next arrow here. Since we are all connecting through the AWS event today, we can just click add an AWS event, and we can just pretty much move on. So the good thing is you don't have to worry about the self-paced or setting up a lot of this stuff. We kind of made everything straightforward for you. So instead of you having to go through all of that, you can just navigate to the component setup. And just to make sure you guys can still see my screen, right?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, you guys can? Okay. So we have the component set up. So the first thing that we need to do is set up a couple of things and just make sure everything is connected and working. So the first command that we're going to actually execute in our CLI is going to be the Helm version short, just to make sure we do have Helm is installed on our IDE here in Cloud9. So I like to kind of clean this up here, so I can just exit off of that. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see better. So hopefully that's big enough for you all. So yeah, so let's go ahead and click that. So it should give you like a long number list of like numbers and stuff like that, but version 3.5 should be good. And let's navigate back here. And I'm actually gonna close this out because I don't need it anymore. But the second command we're going to do is prepare IDE environment in our EKS cluster, because right now we need to pull down some folders. As we see here, there's these folders that are in here, but we do need to make sure that we have everything provisioned properly. So this is going to get us a fresh start and a fresh copy of the workshop, because the backbone of this workshop is using EKS workshops. And if you guys haven't used this before, it's a really great workshop that you can experiment with, learn a lot of different fundamentals related to, security, different components, for example, like load balancing, you name it, as far as, ingresses. So if you're not really familiar with that stuff and you want to dive deeper into Kubernetes, that would be a great opportunity. And I'll send a link in the chat as well, later on, so you can explore that as well, because you still have 48 hours to use this. So just keep that in mind. But in regards to today, we've submitted that. So that looks good. So that has set our account up properly. And now we need to go ahead and do the kubectl get nodes. And this is just going to confirm that we have access to our cluster. So as we see here, it's working. We even have the alias. We can do kget, as well. The shortcuts are already set up in there. So that's great. So I'm going to do a Control-L to clean up my screen. And let's move forward. So that looks good. We don't necessarily have to do the verify auth map. That's already been confirmed with the command before. But what I do want us to go ahead and enter here is we first need to set up some things regarding roles. So in order to get this workshop working and setting up the Helm charts and everything, having the right permissions, here at AWS Security is job 0, we need to go ahead and run this command. And this is going to create 2 separate roles, one for the load balancer and one for the EBS storage. So it has the capabilities of creating a load balancer for us on our behalf, as well as the EBS block storage that we're going to be using. So to do that, just copy the command here, and we can go ahead and paste that inside our CLI. And this command is going to take a couple of minutes. So this is a good time for you guys to catch up. And this is pretty much just going to run that background stuff for us. So it's going to be a little minute before everything gets processed. But in the meantime, as we're waiting for that, I just want to make sure, am I going too fast? Anyone have any questions, any roadblocks, anyone unable to access? And in fact, in the Q&A, just please make sure, again, use that and let us know how we're doing, because we want to make sure that this is indeed worthwhile. I also need to make sure that I mention the survey, but I'll bring that up as far as in the around the end of the meeting. In fact, I actually put it in now because some of you may need to go before then. So let me do a survey. Sure, I actually have the survey link. I actually don't think I have it handy. Can you paste that in the chat, Randy, if you don't mind? The AWS survey link. It's going to be the immersion day survey.
Yes, I sure
Okay.
can. Let me just.
All right, perfect. Okay, let me make sure everyone's still able to get in. Okay, yeah, we got a lot more people in. All right, beautiful. This is exactly what I wanted to see. A lot more users inside the console there. So yeah, so that's great. In the meantime, let's go back here, the ingress. So I guess I can just do a briefing. as far as on, I guess in the Q&As, yeah, please let us know any questions you may have. I also would like to know, even in the Q&A, just put in if you have experience with Kubernetes or as far as EKS, and if you have any interest in learning more. Again, I would highly recommend checking out this workshop as well. It's called EKSworkshop.com. And at least just buying time, there's a various set of different workshops that you can take advantage of, and you can learn about Customize, what Helm is, there's some fundamentals, as far as storage, managed node groups, Fargate. Some of you may not be too familiar with things like Carpenter, for example, is a really cool product that is open sourced, and it's been created by AWS. We do have observability tools, cost visibility. So yes, a lot of different things that you can explore on your own. And this is a great time to use it after you finish with this workshop too. So you have some opportunities to take a look into that. Let me go back and see this thing is still, it's still processing. So yeah, it's going to take a little minute. Right. And please let me know if you guys are able to access this survey. That's the one requirement for today is anyone who is participating and, being an attendee, please provide us, submit the survey. It's really quick. It just indicates, how well we're doing and how we can improve to make sure that the next workshop that we have, we can make sure that it's worth your time, worth your while, and it's hitting those points and those pain points specifically that you guys have that we can, hopefully help remedy. So I promise this is the most boring part of the workshop, this this initialization. So sorry about that. All right, so moving along. So this probably is going to be another about 30 seconds, I'm hoping. Shouldn't be much longer. And if you don't want to use the chat or the Q&A, you can raise your hand as well. So that is definitely welcomed as well. All right. Okay. Right, so it's cleaning everything up. So I think we should be in good shape. Right. I love this. This allows us to appreciate some silence sometimes, but I always get a little bit antsy making sure everything works. So essentially, the next steps that we're going to be doing is we're going to be deploying some Helm charts. So as I mentioned before, we needed to create the roles to create to be able to have the load balancer controller, as well as the EBS block storage controller. So essentially, this allows us to request in, like, for example, a YAML file to, hey, I need you to create a load balancer for me. And this is what the load balancer controller is going to do. It's going to do a call to AWS, say, hey, I need a load balancer. And it pretty much is going to create it for us. It's going to create the URL and attach, in our case, which will be like containers. So whenever you're hitting that endpoint of that load balancer, you're able to access that service, whatever that container is running in this case. So in this case, we're not deploying the actual the web application, but if you follow along in the EKS workshop, you'll be able to see that storefront that we have as far as like a very small application. So enough with that. It looks like we're good to go. Our environment is finally ready. So now that we have the environment ready, let's actually get this Helm chart deployed. So all we need to do is just copy that command there and literally paste it in. And it's going to pretty much do everything for us. It's going to create the Helm chart, the load balancer controller, and it's going to create it within a cube system namespace. So it's going to create it in there, and it's going to create the cluster. It's going to use the cluster name that we have, which is, I believe, EKS workshop, and pretty much assigning that ARN. So the thing that took so long was us creating this component here, which was the role that the service account is going to utilize on our behalf. So the AWS load balance controller has been successfully installed there. So that looks good. And if you do a kubectl, you don't have to do this, but if I do kubectl, well, let's do Helm ls -a. We can see that the AWS load balancer controller has been installed. It's version 1, and the chart here is using that. So that looks good. So that's beautiful. I'm going to go and clear my screen as well. And yeah, we should see those same things there. So that's perfect. So next is the EBS CSI control, the CSI driver. So this is going to be our container storage interface. And let's go ahead and simply just copy this here, and it's going to pretty much do the same thing just for the EBS CSI driver. And let's go ahead and copy it and paste that in. And this should be also fairly quick as well. And this should take care of the magic for us in the background. So once that's been created, essentially what it's doing is creating a daemon set. And this is going to be created in the cube system namespace. And it's pretty much a wait command. So it's not going to allow us to do anything until it refreshes and it's actually been created and ready to use. So that should be very quick as well. Okay. Any second now. And this has also created the service account role ARN, which is what our service account is going to be using. All right, great. So to confirm everything is good to go here, we can run the kubectl get daemon set, and we see that there's 3 desired as far as nodes there. So that looks good. So I think we're in really good shape now. So we have everything that we need as far as our prerequisites to continue on. So now that we have that, we have the same exact output as expected here. Now we need to go ahead and actually start setting up our Nirmata account. So the folks from Nirmata, so thank you as far as Randy. And we can move this screen here. Cigar, we have access to signing up for a free 15-day trial account. So on top of us giving you guys the 48 hours for the AWS accounts, you do need to register for the Nirmata. You don't need any credit card or anything required to use the trial, which is amazing, I think. So we really want you to guys to go ahead and use this product. So what I'm going to do now is pass this on to Cigar, and he's going to go ahead and take it over from here with getting Nirmata set up and actually getting into the NPM console so we can see the magic that happens with the policy manager. So yeah, so this is all you, Cigar.
All right, thanks, Patrick. Let me go ahead and share my screen here so that we can walk through the rest of the workshop here. All right. Let me know when you can see your screen. Okay, sounds good. So let's go to the workshop here. So what you can do is, let's go to getting started with Nirmata. So once you have the, you basically have to register using the sign up link here. Yeah, I think it's here. Just a second. Yeah, let me move this over. Yeah, so once the user account is fully activated, you should actually be able to log in to NPM. And once you log in, this is the screen you will be seeing, right? So we can get started. So before we actually start seeing the value of NPM, right? It's important that we first add the clusters that we have. So in this case, we will go ahead and do the cluster onboarding. So that is the first step, right? So here, what we will be doing is we'll get started with this, and it'll basically tell you what all steps will be followed. So here, you'll have to install NCTL. NCTL is like a Nirmata binary, right? So it was created by Nirmata. It's used for different purposes. One is for adding clusters, scanning, Kubernetes resources, Docker files and different resources, right? And then you onboard. So basically, once you have the NCTL installed, we'll do the cluster onboarding. So there are different ways you can actually onboard the cluster. For example, you can use Helm charts or use NCTL. So in this workshop, we'll be using the NCTL workflow, right? So here, once you come to this page, you just click on next. So basically, there are a couple of things that you need to provide. So for the first thing would be the cluster name. So in this case, you can provide your cluster name.
Cigar, I don't think I
And
can see your screen right now. So I don't know if you're,
okay,
just to let you know.
okay, just give me a second here. How about now?
No, we still can't see it.
Okay,
Yeah,
hold
I can
on.
see it now. Yeah, I can see it for sure. We're good. I think I'm going to change the settings to one panelist at a time. Hopefully that helps. But yeah, I can see your screen now. Can you see it now, Randy?
I can't, but that's totally fine if everybody else can.
There's a button at the top of like the webinar, and it should say his screen. Let me um but yeah, folks, can you please let us know if you can see the screen or not? You can see it. Okay, someone mentioned
Yeah, I
Braxton
see
Braxton said
that.
they
Yeah, I
can
see.
see it. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah, I think I'll probably go back here, right? Just to show this to everyone again. So when you log into your NPM page, the first thing you'll see is the Get Started button, right? So let's go ahead and click on that. So here, what we will do is we will onboard the cluster that was just created in the previous step. So like I was saying, there are different ways you can actually onboard your cluster. You can use help charts or there are other ways to do it. But in this workshop, we'll actually use NCTL, which is the recommended way. NCTL is a binary created by Nirmata. So let's go ahead and click on next. So you'll have to provide a few information here. So the cluster name, and let's click on select compliance standards. So here, what you do is you select different standards. So by default, the pod security standards is selected, right? And you have an option to choose between, not between, you can add the restricted and the RBAC. So let's go ahead and select all of that. and click on add cluster. So once you do that, so basically the UI will provide you with two commands. So the first command is the nctl login command. So what this command will do is it will actually log in your user ID so that you can add your cluster. So let's go ahead and run that here. Okay, so once you add, you will see that your configuration, your credentials are configured. Now let's go ahead and add the cluster.
You may have to re-request.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah,
Then,
but before you do that as well, Cigar, since they're using the Cloud9, can I show them to how to at least, or can you show them how to sign up for the they're gonna need to get
I have it here.
yeah.
This is what I need to do. Let me refresh this. Okay, just a second here.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to probably do the whole thing that takes like 5 minutes. But what you could do is use because they need to
Got it, got
NCTL.
it,
Yeah, they just have to
got
install
it.
NCTL.
Okay, got it. So yeah, before we actually do this, right, we need to install nctl. So if I come back here, this is the link to actually download the binary. So let's copy this and I think I'll probably have to run it on my machine here. You can go ahead and run this command, which will actually download the binary. And then if you look at the next command, it's basically unzipping it and pushing it in your bin directory. So in the meantime, while that's happening, let me go ahead and do this. So in my case, I already have the cluster up and running. So let me go ahead and run the version command that will show me the nctl version. Yeah, so basically you should be running this specific version 4.2.3 in your case. So I'm just going to provide a different name because I already ran the nctl command, right? So we need to provide a different name if we have to go ahead. So let's click on that. Okay, the credentials are configured. Now let's go ahead and add your cluster. So basically it'll ask you to confirm. So let's go ahead and confirm that. So what this will do, right? Um, so, so we have something called as Nirmata Kube Controller. So that's a deployment that actually connects your cluster to Nirmata Policy Manager. So once the cluster is connected, it will go ahead and actually install Nirmata Kyverno operator. So operator is the one that's actually responsible for the lifecycle management of your Kyverno deployment. right? And as part of this, it also deployed some of the default policy sets, the compliance standards that we selected, right? And it might take like 2 to 3 minutes. So let's wait for this. So once you have run those commands, let's go ahead and click on this. So this will actually initialize the components of the operator. Yeah, I think while we're waiting, just want to see if you are able to install NCTL and run those commands in the meantime, or if you're running into any issues.
Also, I guess this would be a good time to, as far as cigars, just out of curiosity, like for those, because I'm not sure, those may not know exactly what, like what does PSS mean? I know we had a check mark as far as like pod security standards, and like, can we a little bit, like just not too much details? I know we saw
Yeah,
things
yeah.
privileged,
Right, right.
baseline, and restricted. Can we go talk a little bit about that? I can also help talking about it too as well if you like.
Yeah, sure. So basically, right, after 1.23, I think Kubernetes introduced PSA, right? And then as part of that, uh, so basically PSS is pod security standards, which basically help you to define the security controls for the Kubernetes. So we have different standards, right? We have the baseline, we have restricted, and we have privileged. These are the three pod security standards, right? And as part of Nirmata Policy Manager, what we do is we deploy these standards. So now, since we have these um, policy sets deployed, if you go ahead and run this command, kubectl get cpol, you will actually see that it has deployed a bunch of cluster policies. So these are nothing but controls that are defined in the pod security standards. For example, running container as a non-root, disallowing host namespaces. So these are all coming from the pod security standards, right? So if I quickly do check on that, you will see. So these are the three uh, profiles that we have for pod security standards, right? So all the baseline, all the controls associated with baseline and restricted profile are being deployed when we install these policy sets. So let me go ahead and show you that. So yeah, these are the controls. So if you want to look at the controls in detail, you can see what they look like. So you have the host processes, host namespaces, privileged containers, and all of that.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that was great because I'm sure those who may not be too familiar saw that and might have inquired of what does that exactly mean. So great response to that, CR. I know
Right.
that was enough time to get the the Kyverno is for, I think it's the operator installed. So I think we can move on. Thank you for that.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm assuming if everyone was able to install the cluster, probably we'll give it a few more seconds. Um, so once we have run those commands, so basically you will see something like this, right? So the cluster was added successfully. So you can click on the cluster details and okay, just give me a second here. I see some parts in the crash loopback. Okay, I think Kyverno parts are up and running. This is what you want to see once you install the operator, which will actually deploy the Kyverno parts. Okay, yeah, I think we are good. I think engine health is healthy. Everything looks good. So now that we have actually onboarded the cluster, now we will be able to see what is the exposure look like for this specific cluster, right? So we'll cover some of that in the upcoming in the next few minutes, but I want to talk about some of the compliance standards that we have, right? So I'm going to click on the next page here. So let's talk about a little bit about compliance, right? So every organization may have different compliance standards, right? Um, and what we do in NPM is when you onboard a cluster, by default, we have some compliance standards by default. So if I go to the compliance page here, um, you will see a bunch of default standards, right? So you can see part security restricted, and you have some of the EKS best practices as well, right? So let's go ahead and click on one of these standard and understand more. So in this case, let's click on the cluster. So basically, you can apply a standard either to a cluster or to a repo, or you can apply to both, right? Um, so this might take some time to actually reflect all the controls. So let's give it a minute or so. Let's go here. And while you are on this compliance standards page, you can actually look at different standards that are inbuilt that Nirmata provides. So if I click on this, you have different standards like NIST, best practices, and you have FinOps and different, these are all the built-in standards, right? And you have CIS benchmark standards, which are for different cloud providers like EKS and others, right? And you also have a user-managed standards, right? So think of a situation or scenario, like every organization will have different compliance standards. So you can actually create your own compliance standard by adding this, right? So I want to show how this can be done in a minute. So these are the different standards, and you can actually check how your clusters are doing against these compliance standards. So let me go ahead and do this. Click on EKS best practices. Right now, we don't have anything because we have not added anything. In your case, maybe you will not have this. So if you want to add it, you just have to click on Add Standard and click on EKS Best Practices, and then you should be able to see that here, right? So let me go ahead and add the clusters. You have a Apply Standard button, so let's go ahead and add that. And you select your cluster and just say Update. So what this will do is this will actually um, deploy this standard on this specific cluster, right? And this might take like a couple of minutes, right? So while we are waiting, so what this page really provides you is what is the compliance? It gives you a compliance score against this cluster, and what is the passing percentage or how compliant it is against different controls. So we have several controls here, right? Let me ungroup it. Yeah, so these are the different controls, right, that you can see. And once the data is actually populated, you will see what is the compliance of the cluster against all of these controls. So yeah, I'm going to uh, probably give it some time and then come back later because this takes like 4 to 5 minutes sometimes. So let's come back to this, right? So while we were talking about the compliance, now CI's benchmark and all of this is mostly cluster level compliance. But let's talk about namespace compliance, right? So namespace compliance is compliance of namespaces across your clusters, So if I go to Nirmata here and let's go to policy reports. So you can actually look at the namespace compliance by clicking on the namespaces tab. So here we added a cluster and these are the different namespaces, right? And what this does is it provides you with a grade of each namespace and how compliant it is against the policies that you have defined. So this will actually tell you how each namespace is doing. So if you want to click on each namespace, you can go further and see what are those violations. So once you click on the namespace, you will actually see the findings, right? So if we talk about this specific finding, it's saying it's about privilege escalation and 3 resources are impacted by this and there are 3 failures, right? So, and if you click on the violation further, it will actually give you the exact message why it is failing, right? So in this case, you're using a privilege escalation, which is not allowed, right? And it also provides some recommendations on how to fix it. So there's a link that you can see here that gives you an example of what is privilege escalation and how to fix it. All right. Before I proceed further, just wanted to pause for a minute and see if there are any questions on this.
Well, I have a question. So for those who may be afraid to ask, but yeah, please ask your questions in the Q&A or it's a request to just to speak or just raise your hand. But so we do see here, this is great. So we can see based on we have the cluster level. So across the entire cluster, we can lock everything down, but maybe we don't want to go so deep in certain namespaces, which is great. So I guess we can be more granular at the namespace level. So in this case, we are looking at the assets namespace, and it's 12 failures, right? And well, 12 violations. So if there's a case where we want to, is there a way that we can have it to where any new like resources that are created in these namespaces, can we set up to where it automatically, rejects the creation of the asset? So say a pod has that same type of privilege escalation. Is it going to say, hey, we're not even going to create this pod because it's violating this particular parameter?
Yeah, definitely. I think we can do that. So let me go back to my Cloud9 here. So if you look at my policies here, right,
Hmm.
you will see for each policy we have the validate action. And right
Hmm.
now it says audit. So what that really means is it's basically deploying the policies in the reporting mode, right? Which means users will be able to deploy the workloads even though it's violating the policy, but it will be reported. But if you really want to block it and not even allow it to run, then you will have to change this validate action to enforce. And that's when Nirmata or Kyverno is actually going to block your pod and it's not even going to run on the cluster.
Okay, great. And is that going to be for currently existing resources as well? If you change that policy, is it going to terminate any running?
No, no,
Okay.
no. I think it doesn't affect the running workloads. It only affects during the admission time, like when you
Uh,
create new resources.
Got it. Got it. Okay, great. So I'm sure someone probably was going to ask that as well. Um, but yeah, no, that's great. So thank you for explaining that. So that's very useful, especially for those who may have some cleaning up to do before they want to implement this in a production environment. So that's awesome.
All right. So let me go back to my compliance page here. Just a second. So yeah, I wanted to see if we can install the CIS benchmark and give it some time. Let me go back. Are you all seeing some slowness on your end, or you're good? I see. Maybe it's my internet. Not sure. Okay. So let's go ahead and add the cluster here that we had. So this is for the CIS benchmark. So if you want to get a CIS benchmark report for the EKS cluster, you will have to do this. And in addition to this, you also have to deploy you have to enable the CIS controls, right? So to do that, you actually go to the policy reports and click on enable CIS controls, and this will actually give you the instructions to deploy the chart. So in our case, let's use EKS. Let's quickly go ahead and run these commands. So the what this will do is it's actually going to deploy the Kubench. So CIS benchmark for EKS actually uses Kubench under the hood, right, to generate the report related to CIS benchmark. So let's go ahead and install the Helm chart here. Okay, let's do get pods. Let's do a get list parts in the Kubench namespace. Okay, I think it is completed. So if you do kubectl get cluster policy reports, this will actually show you the CIS benchmark related data. All right, so what is happening here is it's actually showing the policy cluster policy report for some of the other violations as well. So I just did a grep -v cluster role to exclude that. Now this is showing you the report, right, for the CIS benchmark. So for Nirmata to show that information, it does take like a couple of minutes. So that should be available here in a few minutes, and then we can look into that. Yeah, the EKS benchmark, the EKS best practices standard that we applied before, I think it has generated some data here. So if you click on the clusters, you can see for different controls, what is the exposure of violations for this cluster, right? You are seeing issues with the RBAC, and there are pods running as non-root, and so on, right? All right. Moving on from here, let's go to policy reports. Um, so let's go to the policy reports page here, right? So in policy reports, you can actually view all the violations across categories or clusters or namespaces. And we also have a ability to scan your, repositories, which we will be looking into in a few minutes. So if you go to clusters, it shows you the grade of the cluster overall, what's the grade, what's the compliance score and all of that. And you also have repository right now, it's empty, we don't have anything, and namespace violation, right? So let's click on one of them just to dive deeper. So what that shows is it shows you the different findings, right? And it shows you the grade, and you also have the option of actually sharing this report, right? So if I click on share report, you can send this report to a specific user, right? So you can either send the entire cluster report, or you can send it for a specific namespace, right? And then you can actually schedule this as well, right? So we have an option of scheduling these reports based on the cron job, daily, weekly, or even monthly, right? That way, developers or platform team, they don't even have to come to the UI. They will get the policy reports in their email itself.
Hey, so you are. Great. I love that explanation there. I do have a question. There is a question, a couple of questions in the chat actually. If you don't mind answering them now. So someone asked here, how do we enforce the policy, meaning switching from the audit to the enforce mode?
Yeah, sure. So let's go back to this policy here, right? It's quite easy. It's just a configuration. So let's do kubectl get cpol. Now, if I do edit cpol, let's go ahead and edit one policy, right? So let's do this. So there is a configuration that needs to be updated. So let's go here. As you can see, there's a validation failure action, right? Right now, this is audit. Now, if we can just go ahead and change this. Oh, I did something here. Apologies. So all you do is you just change it from audit to enforce. So right now this policy is deployed in enforce mode. So if anybody violates this policy, they will be blocked right away and they won't be allowed to deploy anything. How can we author custom policies? So yeah, I think we can write custom policies. It is pretty straightforward. So if you go to the Kyverno website here, there's an entire section that talks about how you can write policies. So there's a section called as write policies, which tells you how you can match resources and Kyverno policies can be of different types, right? It can be either validating, mutating, or generating based on the use case you have. So these can be easily written because they are all in the YAML format. So they are pretty straightforward to write. So probably I'll share this link in the chat, which will give you some information on how you can write it.
Yep, I shared it already.
Okay, sounds good. How can we enforce a custom mutating policy? Yeah, I think it's the same for any policy. If you want to enforce, when you say enforce, you just change the configuration from audit. I mean, it doesn't apply for a mutation policy, right? Whether the policy is in audit or enforce, it doesn't matter for a mutation policy, but it only applies for a validation policy. Does that answer your question?
Let's see. I think someone.
Okay, I think I got the response.
You got it. Okay, awesome. There we go. Perfect. Great question. Keep them coming. All right. So
All
I'm
right.
in live.
Now, moving on from here, let's talk about let's talk about shift left with NCTL, right? I think deploying policies and validating resources at the admission time is all good, right? But I think this is not really you know not a very good approach, I would say, because when you're scanning these resources, it's important that we have a shift down approach. So what I mean by shift down approach is it's important that we capture all these violations or issues uh, in before we actually deploy stuff on the cluster, right? Uh, so shift down approach actually complements shift left approach. Shift left approach focuses on on introducing security earlier in your software lifetime software development cycle, right? And what shift down approach does is it emphasizes the role of platform teams in embedding security deeper into the infrastructure, like in your infrastructure as well as in your CI/CD pipelines, which basically helps developers to follow some of these security best practices, right? So in the next section, I want to walk you through how we can actually scan these resources before they're actually getting deployed, and how we can block the deployment of those resources in pipelines, right? So this is a typical workflow. So in any organization, the controls or the compliance standards, they're all defined by the security team, right? Whereas a DevOps user or developers, right, they make changes, make updates to the YAML files. So once they do that, all those YAML files are actually validated against the policies that are defined by your security team, right? And if they are compliant, they are allowed to get deployed. If they are not, then they are blocked. And that's one workflow. The other workflow is you can actually periodically scan all your resources and send the report to NPM, Nirmata Policy Manager. So let's go through some demos here that will give us a good understanding. Let's click on scanning policy reports. So now that you have the NCTL installed, you can actually go ahead and run these commands in your case to actually uh, look into how you can scan the repositories. So in your case, you'll probably have to copy the token and the user ID, right? So let's go to Nirmata here. Let's go to profile. So once you go to profile, you will, if you're doing this for the first time, you'll probably have to generate the API key, and wherein you just provide the password, generate the key, and you just do a NCTL login. So you can copy this button here. Let's go ahead and run that. Okay, so this is done. Now let's clone this repo. This is a public repo here that you can clone. Oh, okay. Once you clone this repo, let's go ahead and run this command here. So what this command is doing is it's actually scanning the entire repo that you just downloaded, this repo that you downloaded, and it is scanning against the pod security standard baseline policies. So if you, I think sometime back I discussed about the pod security standards, right? We have three profiles: baseline, restricted, and privileged. So it's going to scan it against the baseline profile and then generate the report and then send it back to NPM. As you can see, it has actually scanned the repo, and it is giving you a report saying there is this one failure that 3023 passes, right? And it has already published your report to NPM. So let's go ahead here and look at it. Yeah, so as you can see, the report has been published to NPM, right? And you can drill down further to see what are the violations, right? So once you click on this repo, you will actually see the findings, and how many have passed, how many have failed. And if you click on the finding itself, it will tell you what is the violation about, right? It's basically saying we have defined host namespaces, which is not allowed, right? And it is telling you the deployment file that has this bad configuration. In this case, it's coming from this particular configuration file or the manifest file, where you have the host namespaces enabled. So this is one way of actually scanning your repositories. So you can actually, I mean, this is good. Scanning it locally is good, but the most effective way of really handling this is scanning this in your CI/CD pipeline, in your pipeline. So I think we'll be looking into that in the next minute. So before I go to that, just want to see if you all are able to run the scan and able to see the report or not. All right. I think I am assuming it should be good, but if there are any concerns or issues, yeah, we can take up those questions. So what we did now is, we did it as a admin user because by default, all of you will be admin users to your tenants, Nirmata tenants. But there are also scenarios where, a DevOps user may have access to only specific namespaces, right? In that case, you will probably use the publish token, right? So, we don't really have to do this because right now you're admin, so you should be good. But this is another way of publishing your report if you are a DevOps user and have, access to specific namespaces. Okay. Um, moving on from here, let's go to the CI/CD pipeline. Like I was saying, the most effective way of actually handling handling this is by checking this in the CI/CD pipeline. So there are different workflows, right? So everyone uses different CI tools. The most popular being GitHub Actions, Jenkins. So I'll be covering the workflow for GitHub Actions and Jenkins, but pretty much you can do this for any other, uh, you know, CI tool, or you can also do this in your Bitbucket pipelines and so on. So this is something you can just follow along. You don't really have to do anything. So let's go to this Git repository here that was created. Let's look at the workflows that we have so that you get a better understanding of how this can be used. So if I go to this is a sample repository where we have different um, policies for different resources. And then we have defined a simple workflow, GitHub workflow. So let's go through that quickly. So this is a workflow file where we are actually scanning the repository, right? So what we're doing here is we are actually cloning we're not cloning, we are downloading the NCTL binary and we are doing a repository scan here. This is the same command that we ran on our cluster on the other terminal. But right now we are doing this as part of the CI action, right? So let's go ahead and uh, let's look at the action here. You can make some changes if you want here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and make some changes so that this workflow gets triggered. Okay, as you can see, the workflow got triggered. Now there are different workflow files here. So let's click on one of them. Let's go to repo scan. Yeah, I think, okay, I think the credentials are not right in this case. So I'll probably have to update my credentials. So let me go back to Nirmata.
Yeah, they probably are stale now.
Sorry?
I'll say they probably are stale, the credentials. So
Yeah,
might
I
need
think
to-
I'll probably have to quickly copy this new token here. Go here. Let's go to all right, just a second. Okay, let me quickly do this change. Okay, as you can see, now it went through this time and it's actually publishing the result to NPM. You can see the details here, right? So let's go to our Nirmata here. Let's go to policy reports. Yeah, this is the new one that got generated, right? So let's click on this. Yeah, this is 18 seconds ago. So this is the new report that got created. So this is how you can actually scan the repositories, um, right, ahead of time so that before your stuff actually gets deployed, you're catching those violations, and sharing it with developers and so that they can take a look and work on it, right? So the next thing is with the Jenkins. So again, this is something you can just follow along. We do have a Jenkins job that actually scans this, right? So I just want to quickly show you how it's configured. So we need to provide the repository that you want to scan, and then you have to provide which branch you want to build, right? Which branch to scan, and you have to provide the NCTL binary that you want to use, right? And your API token. So once that is provided, you also provide the part to the policies that you want to use to scan your repo. So once all of that is done, you just build this, right? So let me copy my token again because it was updated. All right. Okay, I just saved it. Now click on build. So while this is running, it might take a minute or so, and we should be able to see the scan results in our NPM. Yeah, we'll probably share these repos, the public repos that we have, right? You can take a look at the workflow files and how they are configured.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome for them to follow along, and they can customize it to their liking. So you already have like the template, like you've shown. So I'm sure they'll really appreciate that.
Right. So I think, yeah, this got successful and all the results are pushed to NPM. So if we go back to Nirmata and let's go to policy reports, now we can see the different categories, right? Now we have the RBAC, Docker file, best practices, and all of that. So click on repositories. Here you can see this is the repo that we scanned, right? And it has created the data based on the exposure, right? So basically, we are doing different kinds of checks. We are checking Docker files for compliance, Terraform files, and basically this shows you how many files are impacted and what is the actual violation. So if you click on any one of these, yeah, it's basically telling you there's a specific field that's enabled, which is not allowed. And this is one of the Docker file best practice. Okay. Um, yeah, I think we are all able to see the violations. We know what is the exposure of our cluster, right? Now, what's next? What should we do next, right? That's the next question. So typically there are two options, right? Either you have to fix the violations, right? Or you just request security team to allow some exception, right? So these are the two options. And I think it's important that it's important for developers to know how to fix the problem, right? Many times what happens is developers are completely unaware, they don't know what they have to fix, and that kind of delays. And as you know, misconfigurations are, that causes misconfigurations, and the misconfigurations are the biggest cause of security incidents. So let's look into how we can actually um, create policy exceptions, right? Because many times we have seen that app teams cannot fix something, right? Fix the violation for some reason, and they need to have a exception, right, for their deployment. So let's look into how Nirmata helps with that kind of workflow in the next session, next minute. So if I go to back to my workshop here, I want to cover policy exceptions or exception management, right? So policy exception is again a Kubernetes object that we have that basically allows you to create a policy exception and define what all namespace or what all deployment is exempted from a specific control, right? And there are often scenarios where developers cannot fix it and they want some exception, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at that. This is something that you can do from your side as well, right? So let's go to policy reports here and click on namespaces. So once you go here, let's pick a namespace for us to test this out. So let's pick this namespace here. So once you come here, you actually have a request policy exception button, right? So once you click on that, it will basically provide you different options, right? You can specify why you are not able to fix a specific violation. So you can just mention that. Um, and then just you select violations, add violation. You just pick one, add violation, and then you request policy exception. Okay, so the policy exception got created, right? So now I am, as an admin, I can actually see all the exception requests, right? So here you can see that this was a policy exception that was created. And if I'm an admin, I can actually approve this, right? Now, since this was created by me, I may not be able to approve this, but of course there are different settings, right, that you can configure. For example, in this case, I'm saying that this will be approved only once different administrator will approve this. Now you can go ahead and change this if you want, right? And typically what happens is in organizations, you have DevOps users and platform team, right? Platform teams are the ones who actually manage this, and they are the ones who approve this. And once the um, policy exception is approved, the developer will get an email notification, and the policy exception will actually be deployed on the cluster.
That's awesome. So we got about 3 more minutes left. So I think the
Okay.
last piece was the remediation. I don't know, do we have enough time to just
Right,
quickly?
right. Yeah, I want to quickly wrap that up. So I think it's easy for developers to know how to remediate their violations, right? So let's go to policy reports here, right? And let's click on, let's say these are the violations we are seeing. Let's click on this. Um, so you can see that, every violation has this column which says um, it has like 30 violations. Let's click on one of them. Okay, I think in the interest of time, I'm going to just show this here in our workshop here. So once we have the policy report shown on the NPM, you can actually go to the specific violation, and it will tell you for which all violations you have the remediation. And if you click on the button, view remediation div, you can actually see what is your YAML on the left side and the remediated YAML. So in this case, you can see that the user has not specified the security context, and the remediated YAML is actually showing you what is the fixed YAML. So what you can do is you can just download this YAML and then upload it, or create a pull request using NCTL. So NCTL has the option of doing that. And that's really useful for developers who don't have much knowledge about Kubernetes, and it will simplify their life.
That's amazing. I know there's always one thing to know what's wrong, but how to fix it is a whole nother challenge. So that just
Right.
adds on to the complexity and the time. And even if that fix doesn't even work, even if you know what's wrong, you may still not know how to fix it, which can probably cause another security concern on top of that. So I think that's super important. I think that's my favorite component that you guys have related to this. I rather know how to fix it. Don't tell me what's wrong and not how to fix it, right? So always come with solutions, and I think this is a great way to take a lot of problems off people's plate. So so I think that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the session. I know we are literally right at the top, right at 1:30 Eastern time. We really appreciate you all joining, and please provide us feedback on the surveys, as well as checking out the marketplace listing. So if you guys are interested in this product, we can definitely help you all as far as making the actual transaction seamless by using AWS Marketplace. And we're here to help you and assist you as far as with finding those problems and those violations, and make sure that you get those A+ on all of your clusters.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I want to thank you for joining today's session. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. A special shout out goes to Patrick and Sagar for doing a wonderful job on the workshop. We appreciate you. Thank you for all of your insight and knowledge that you shared. Once again, this session will be sent out shortly after. It is being recorded right now. So be on the lookout for that later today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right. Awesome.
Okay,
Awesome.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Bye, everyone.